everyone. Thank you so much for joining LeadSquared webinar. A lot of you may be new to this. A lot of you may have come from an SCM Rush email. A lot of you would have come from a LeadSquared email. But anyway, nonetheless, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I know a lot of people have come from various places or have joined in from various places rather. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today. I'm Shibani and I'll be moderating the session. I work for the marketing team at LeadSquared, which is a marketing automation and CRM platform. So the topic for today is how to drive conversions from content. And we have a speaker today who is an expert in that field. She's Olga Smirnova from SEM Rush. She's a product marketing manager there. She has over 7 years experience in digital marketing and communications. And as she likes to describe herself, she's truly passionate about strategic planning and content creation. And she tells brand stories that generate awareness and leads. So thank you so much, Olga, for joining the session today. How are you feeling? Are you excited about the session?
Hello, Minu. Thank you very much for such a nice introduction. I'm very excited about this speech and about the webinar. So thank you.
All right, then, Olga, do take us through this journey of converting leads through content.
Sure, thank you. So as I said, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this amazing webinar and this session. My name is Olga. I'm a product marketing manager in SEMrush company. So as a service, we provide different solutions for digital marketing professionals. And in my company, I'm responsible for content toolkit. So one of my responsibilities is to create a lot of content for different purposes, such as sales, traffic generation, lead conversion. So today's webinar is a perfect opportunity for me to share my experience with you, and I'm really looking forward for this interaction today. So in terms of time, first of all, I wanted to point about the time. In terms of time, we are going to have all content covered in like 35-40 minutes. And hopefully we're going to have around 5-10 minutes for questions. So let's move forward and dive into the topic. First of all, I want to highlight what we are going to talk about and what will you learn what will you learn after the session. We will start with the first step of content marketer, and we will see what has to be done before you actually get to the content creation. So for some of you, it might be just a confirmation of what you already know, but in my practice, a lot of times I met such situations when marketers just skip those steps, those first steps of content marketing, of good content marketing. So I decided to repeat once again those first cornerstone steps. So just to highlight how it is important for the beginning of content marketing. Then we will move to different life cycle stages that individual go through when looking for a problem solution. I will explain how user behavior varies from stage to stage and how does it influence conversions from content in general. After that, we will talk what type of content drives most of engagement and conversions from the particular stage. You will learn what specifics has each type of content and how it correlates with user behavior. And at the end of our session, we will cover content metrics and its correlation with each stage. There would be a bunch of metrics that you should keep track of to make sure that your content really resonates with the audience and brings them value. So that's pretty it for the beginning, and I think we can move to the next slide. So what do we know about content marketing? I think now almost every person understands that it is important to create content and share it with their target audience. However, quite often we may notice that some content is created let's say just for the sake of content. So that means that people know there should be content and they publish it, let's say with expectations to see the raise in leads or raise in sales, but this doesn't happen. So what content marketers do wrong? There are, of course, a lot of different factors that influence content performance, but first thing they have to do is to make sure they don't skip those two important steps. So here it is. The content marketing doesn't start writing. Let's say when you start to do content writing, it doesn't start from writing itself. First of all, you have to start with your target audience research, and after that, you have to create the doc with a detailed description of your potential customer. So this doc is called buyer persona, and I think maybe a lot of you heard about it, but as I said, I wanted to repeat it once again to highlight how important to develop buyer personas. After that, when you already know your audience needs and pains, you need to know where they are in the buying cycle. For example, how close are they to making a purchase? So this location in the buying cycle is known as a buyer's journey. So the second very important stage when you're starting to do content marketing is to define where your buyer is at the buyer journey. And only after completing these two steps, you can start to think what type of content to create and what should it be about. So here, if we continue to buyer persona, let's just go through quickly about this point. So let's just see what is it and what parts should contain buyer persona. So for content marketing purposes, you need personas to help you to deliver the most relevant and valuable content for your audience. So it's critical to develop buyer persona because it helps you to understand what content to create, what tone, style, and what delivery stages to develop for your content. You also understand what topics and targets you should focus on to grow your business, and and also get conversions from content. And as well, you also understand who needs to be in the know on your projects now and in the future. So generally, you create the whole portfolio of the person that helps you to identify your next steps. So let's see how many personas do you usually should create. So I would advise not to stop on one persona. It's better to create 5, like 3 or 5. That number is large enough to cover the majority of customers, but yet small enough to be specific. And plus, more than 5 personas may bring serious cost challenges, actually. So if you talk about parts that each persona should have, there are generally 8 things you shouldn't miss. The first one is demographic information. This is everything what relates to the age, income, location of your persona. So you should understand, is it like teenagers or let's say adults who are searching for some solution. Also what income they have, and that would influence the price of your product. And for some products it's important to know the location of your buyer persona, of your target audience. But for some services, especially online services, it doesn't matter sometimes. Also there is objectives. So you should, like everything that relates to objectives should help you to identify what is the main goal and key responsibilities of your persona. It might be everything like starting from the point that they want to eliminate inefficiency to speed time to market, and finishing like increase sales. So this is the main point for you to understand how you can help them in reaching these objectives. If you are talking about the problem, so again, this is about their pains. You should know what is the main pain point, what are they thinking about, what solutions they can't find, what's stopping them to make the next step, what's stopping them from reaching their goal. So knowing this information would help you to provide the most valuable content answering for this problem. Other thing is key purchase drivers. So for some people it's like nice price, for some people it's a package of tools, let's say. For some people it's some nice promotion probably. So just think about it, what will drive your buyer persona to make the next step and convert to the purchase. There's also obstacles. So what about obstacles? Sometimes person are not ready to buy. So some people think that the main obstacle is the price, but you would be surprised that it's actually not in all cases. For example, some persona can be influenced by some very nice offers, or let's say some of them might be might not to make a decision about purchase because not because of the price, but because they don't have enough of resources or enough of team members, or it's not just the right time for them. So just figure it out and continue to create more targeted content for that. Related to content preferences, this is about channels and formats. So people, for different stages of buyer personas, for different stages of their needs, they need different content formats. We will talk about it a bit later, and also we will talk about channels where we will distribute those formats. As well, there is one point about places where they find information. This is the main resources where you're going to distribute your content. So think about it, think where is the best place to place your content. And also the last important thing is a role. So you have to see what's the position of the person. Is he influencer, or he make decision about the purchase, or he is a final decision maker? It also will influence what type of content you're going to provide to him. Okay, let's move further. So we continue to buyer's journey. It's actually the second important step when you start doing content marketing. So generally it's a process when the people or any individual go through when he wants to make a decision about purchase the product, or about trying something, or about to discover new product. All of this called buyer's journey. Buyer's journey has different stages. Generally there are 3 stages of buyer's journey. Let's go through them. The first stage is awareness stage, and it's also called like top of the funnel. So during this stage, the awareness stage, the buyer, so actually the awareness stage finds the buyer noticing that something is not right. Let's say there are some symptoms of an issue, but the buyer cannot state their problem in one sufficient sentence. So at this stage, as a business, or your goal is to help the buyer identify their problem. So the same goal has your content. At this point, your content goal is to help the buyer to understand what is wrong and what solutions is there on the market. If we talk about consideration stage, so this stage features a buyer who is dedicated to researching options for alleviating their newly defined issues, or your buyer wants information at this stage and they, let's say, not ready to purchase a solution. So at this stage, your business has to provide content that will explain to your potential customer how your solution or your product or your service can help him to solve his problem. So it's not just about defining the problem, it's also about alignment with your product as well. And if you move further to the decision stage, so this stage finds the buyer comparing different brands options and to ultimately purchase their solution. So he, at this stage, he tries to figure out what brand is better, what solution is better, what will work for him exactly. So once the buyer has chosen a solution that you provide, actually, you have to ensure that they choose your brand over your direct competitors. So, and this also requires some particular type of content as well. And if you go further, we will see how user behavior correlates with different stages of buyer's journey. The first stage, the awareness stage, as I said, user generally looking for problem answers. He will try to find something that will educate him about his problem. He's searching for some data or surveys or opinions or reviews from particular influencers. So that will help him to understand what is wrong and what is there to help him. At the consideration stage, the person already researching what are the options. Is there any particular product that will help him? Is there any particular solution? So he's doing heavy research. He is not already looking for some particular education content. He is looking for, let's say, for some very how-to explanations, how-to articles. But I will mention it later about when we will talk about content types. And at the decision stage, the person trying to figure out what would it take exactly to become a customer. That means that they already picked up some brands or some companies, and they're already comparing those companies. And sometimes they already know in advance which company is the best for them, but they still want to make sure they covered everything. And if we talk about information needs, so at the first stage, at the awareness stage, the person, not the person, but the target audience, the individual, usually focused on some neutral content without any pointing to your product or to your solution. So generally educational content that helps him to make a decision to continue his search, to continue to search the solution for his problem. At the consideration stage, he is searching all the available solutions and methods and anything what can help him to solve his problem. And at the third stage, decision stage, he's actually at the point where he knows what is on the market and he wants to understand what exactly should he to pick up, to choose. So this is some supporting documentation to your brand, some data, some case studies. So this is about different user behavior at the different stages of a buyer's journey. And if we go further to the buyer's journey, we can say that each stage of the journey journey requires different type of content. As you could see, there is different user behavior and different needs for each stage. So you can't create content that just fits to each and every stage. There's different formats and different messages that cover your customer needs. So the next step after you defined your buyer persona and you also defined what stage of the buyer journey your audience is. So the next step after that is content mapping. So if you talk about content mapping, there are different definitions, but I would prefer this one. So actually, content mapping is a plan to deliver the right content to the right person at the right time. What does it mean? It means that you know your buyer persona, you know at what stage he is, so you know what answers you should answer exactly at this particular stage and in your piece of content, what messaging should be in this particular content, what call to action should be in this piece of content, and also all of this aligned to characteristics of the buyer, of the person who will be consuming this content, and also it's also based on how close the person to making purchase stage, so buyer's journey stage. If we go further, let's look at the awareness stage and see what type of content formats fit the stage perfectly. At this stage, your main focus should be connect prospect with educational materials. So what that means? So generally, these materials, as I mentioned before, doesn't contain any mentions of your brand or any mentions of your particular solutions or detailed descriptions of benefits or features of those solutions. Mostly these are some educational content that provides answers, some how-to answers, provides information about what are the steps to solve the problem, what are the cases, how different brands or different people solve their problems. And the best fit for those questions, for those stage, such formats as blog posts, white papers, ebooks, tip sheets, checklists, and everything that can just answer the question, answer the problem of your buyer persona, and will guide him to the next step of buyer's journey. So after this step, after the awareness stage, the next stage is, actually, here's the one content tip I wanted to share with you. So this content of the awareness stage should be SEO optimized. Why you need to do this? Because generally people go to Google search when they want to find any answer to their questions or their problems. So they go to Google and they search different content, mostly from top 10 results in Google SERP. So if you optimize your content and it will appear to on the first top 10 on the first page, and it will go to the top 10 in Google, the chances much higher that the person will read your content, and much higher that you will gain more traffic for this piece of content. If you go if you go further, there is also consideration stage. So at this stage, your main focus is to explain benefits of different solutions and, of course, of your solution. Also very important to state why your brand or your solution is better than the solution of your competitors. The main content formats that fit for this stage something that already also educate your buyer persona, but educate mostly about the product. So this might be case studies, how-to content, some product webinars, demo videos, product descriptions, everything that highlights how your content, how your product can help a person to solve his problem. And there is also one more content tip. So when creating such content, you shouldn't focus directly on what you're selling. You should mostly focus on how individual can benefit from your solution, how your solution supports buyer persona problem, and how your solution helps him to reach his final goal. Yeah. So the next stage that we have to move, this is decision stage. At this point, your main focus to provide like concrete business details and also help individual to support the purchase. So content format that fit this stage the most. It's case studies, different free trials, live demo, promo codes, testimonials, everything that can push the person to convert to your prospect, everything that also highlights benefits of your solution and your company as well, your brand, your product, probably some nice successful examples how some other companies used your solution or your product to solve their problems, similar to your buyer persona problems. So all of this content would help them to make this final decision. And at this stage, there is also one more content tip. Here, you shouldn't be shy and you shouldn't hide main benefits of your product. This is the content where you can announce yourself and highlight main benefits, main points why your brand is better than other brands or why your solution is better than other solutions. Than other solutions. So it could be different charts and comparisons with your competitors. It can be comparisons of different solutions on the market. Everything that would help you to convince the person that your service is the best for his problem, for solving his problem. And of course, when you created all of this content and distributed it in different channels, it's not an end of your content marketing. The next step what you have to do is to track metrics that shows your content. If we actually, all those metrics also correlate with different stages of buyer's journey as well. And we can start from the awareness content metrics. Let's say the main one is traffic to the next stage of content. What does it mean? So let's say if you place some educational content where you don't describe a lot of features of your product or a lot of benefits of your product, you just generally provide the solution to the buyer persona problem. This content has to lead the person to some content that will provide him this how-to content related to a product and service. You can place some links to, let's say, ebooks or PDF where you describe all your benefits, all benefits of your product. And you should also track how much traffic came to this content and how many people also turned to the next stage, consideration stage. There is also social reach metrics for this content. Why is it important? At this stage, you try to generate awareness for your brand. You try to state yourself as an expert in the field. So as many people, you cover as many audiences will be involved in this content, is that the better for you. Also, other metric is time on site. It shows how interesting and engaging your content is. So if person spends a lot of time at your content page, it means that generally your content is engaging and you've done everything right. If your person leaves your content after 1-3 minutes, it means that something is wrong and you have to think how to improve this piece of the content. Page views, video views, blog comments, it's also like engaging metrics. It shows that your content is at the right point, the content is engaging, and people are generally satisfied and find this the solution for the problem that they're searching. If we move to the metrics of consideration stage, here is we also see traffic to the next stage of the content. It means that after a person got some article about the how-to explanations, how your solution can help solve their problem, you also have to track how many of those persons went down to the funnel and let's say went to the page, to the landing page with suggestion of demo call or free trial or everything that can convert them to the next stage. This is also content downloads or form completions. So let's say if you're doing some PDFs or ebooks, you should also count how many people downloaded it. It also shows, it actually shows two things, how engaging or like how engaging topic is topic that you chosen for this PDF, and the other thing is how good is the channel that you chosen for the distribution. Is your content easy to find? Is it in the right place? So also think about this. It is also email subscriptions and event registrations, demo signed-ups, webinar registrations, so everything that point that a person is ready to leave his contacts, such as email or phone number, that actually shows that he is really interested in your content, really interested in your solution. So you have to count how many of such sign-ups or registrations done actually happened after you draw the traffic to your content. After this metrics, we will move to decision content metrics. So actually the main metric is new customer or online sales, or as well as offline sales. It is also conversion rates and cost of customer acquisition. Here you can see there are metrics such as traffic to the next stage of content. So this is actually point to the content funnel. So it doesn't stop on the decision content on the decision stage. It actually goes further to the customer loyalty and customer retention. But it already goes after you after the sales happen. So also you can track the traffic to the content that you send to your customers and see how many of them visit your how-to content or also how-to guides. Even if they're already your customers, you can also see how loyal they are to your content and how often they can consume your content. So finishing with the metrics, we are also going to talk about maximizing existing content. So here we're going to talk about reuse and content update. As you may notice, it's a lot of work to create good content. You have to figure out your buyer persona, you have to create a target messaging, you have to write it, you have to distribute it, you have to measure your metrics, and it's just not right to forget about this content when you just published it once and that's it. You have to reuse this content, and you have to also use this content as an evergreen content that constantly converts your potential customers, potential prospects. So how can you do it? You can start from content audit and see what content performs good and what content can be reused or just removed from your site. This you can do based on the previous steps when you're measuring metrics of your content. So if some content performs good and you know that people are still engaging with it, you should just keep it updated all the time. Sometimes it's minor updates, sometimes it's some huge updates, but still don't remove it from your site, from your website or your blog. Keep it live and update it constantly. Some content just doesn't perform well, but it doesn't mean that you should just forget about it. You still can use some visuals or texts or some quotes from those content and use it in actually other pieces of content that you will also align to other buyer's journey stages. You also can merge content pieces together and create new formats. For example, if you publish different articles about how to solution or different steps of some workflow, you then can combine these articles to one ebook or some guide, and this will also help you to produce new piece of content. Or let's say you have a lot of news at 1 month, so you also can use it for your digest or newsletter, whatever you feel like. So this is actually what reuse means. Finishing the topic, I would love to highlight that content marketing always starts from research. And if you want to create content that's going to convert your audience to your leads and then leads to your customers, you have to know what are the main pain points of your audience and what are their objectives. You have to know what are the stage of buyer's journey that they actually are in the particular time, and you have to track how many people at the particular point in your company, at what stage they actually are, and provide and distribute this content to them. Also, you have to keep track of metrics of those content. Besides conversions, it's also very important to understand how your content performs, so you can just be sure that everything you are doing is just right and your content fits perfectly to your buyer persona stage, buyer journey stage. And also don't just leave your content that you already created, reuse it and update it and just use it for your next content pieces. So thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. There is also one slide about tools that I used. I forgot to highlight it. So of course, as I mentioned, it's a lot of work when you're creating content. So of course, there are tools that might help you to optimize this work. I generally use such tools as ClearVoice or like SEMrush or If This Then That when I'm doing some research on what topic should I write about or what type of content publishing my competitors or what type of content my audience needs or what type of content right now is trending in particular about particular topic. So I use those tools, and if I want to track some performance or content metrics, I also use Google Analytics. I use SEMrush tools. Yeah, so, and also I use ClearVoice for this. So those tools provide me all required metrics that will show me that my content is on a perfect fit, my content is resonating with the audience, and it really provides some value to them. So thank you very much for your attention. I would be happy to hear your questions.
Sure, Olga, thank you so much. So before anyone can ask, I'm just going to jump in right away. So when you mentioned Reddit, can you tell me what kind of content should you put there? Because we've tried, I mean, at least I've tried and I've never really succeeded that way. So what kind of content should you share on Reddit?
Yeah, sure. So about the Reddit, generally we tried different types, but mostly it was something like how-to answering how-to articles that explain how to handle some particular problem. So mostly it's about, it's not actually product content, it's mostly about, educational content where we don't exactly explain product features. We're mostly saying that there is like step 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 if you want to solve your problem. And here is also, and actually we like point to our solution, to our brand, but very gently. We're just saying that if you want to implement all those tools, here's some more content for you to know about it, and then we lead the person to our blog where he can find some how-to content, and it would be more product-oriented, let's say.
Okay. And would you say that should the content be like long, short? Is there any sort of limit or amount that works better on Reddit?
I won't say that there is some golden standard for this. Of course, it should depend on your goal again. If you want to just to, let's say, raise the interest in a person and then take him to your website or to your blog, of course it's better to provide some piece of the content, just like a sneak peek of what you can explain, and then provide the link to your blog or to any content asset at your site where you already can catch the person and then explain him all the benefits of your products, and also get some contacts like emails or phone number from him. So that would be just better, I think, from my point of view. And that's what actually we tried in our practices.
Okay, definitely. We will try something similar for sure. So yes, I'm taking up questions from the audience now. Starting off with Andrew's question. So he says, what methods would you suggest to determine key purchase drivers and purchase obstacles?
So if you're talking about methods for obstacles and key purchase, there are like different points. So we can suggest the solution to the person and say, okay, if you're going to reach this goal, you can like do different steps, or we also can explain how using your particular service or your product you can reach this this objective. Also, if you have, if the person have different obstacles, or like before he wants to purchase, we actually used to provide some comparisons. That also works. Because sometimes person are not sure about what solution to choose or what brand to choose or what service to choose, because he doesn't have all the information about this brand, or he can't clearly identify what are the pluses and minuses of the particular solution. So from my point of view, the best content type would be some comparisons where you can clearly explain what are the pluses and minuses, and compare it to some other solutions on the market. So I think that works the best for this point.
Okay, Andrew, if you have any follow-up questions, do forward it to us. I'm moving to Rob's question. Oh, so Andrew says thank you. Right. Rob says, what are some sources for what's trending? So, news that we see that's trending. So,
Yeah,
could you elaborate or could you mention some sources where you pick up those stories from?
sure. It is also Reddit and Quora. It's actually very good sources for some trending topics and news. You just can see conversations around everything and anything there. So I'm also doing like brand monitoring all the time. And what I'm monitoring my brand, I'm monitoring brand of my competitors, and also some industry keywords. Let's say if my industry is content marketing, I'm monitoring content marketing and see what stories are appearing around this keyword. There is also like Feedly, where you can find a lot of stories. It's like aggregator, news aggregator. There are also different aggregators like Topsy, but like I'm not using it anymore. So I think generally it's like those two sources. It's like Reddit and Quora, and also brand monitoring that helps me to find some trending topics.
Okay. So earlier April wanted you to go back to the tools that you use page. So
Yeah,
I think April wants to know, just to go back to what tools you use. I think she missed a couple there. Yeah. So
sure.
April, that's the slide for you. If you have any follow-up questions to that, please do ask. In the meantime, I'm going to Marcella's question. So she says, how often should content be updated?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. It's actually a good one. So again, it depends on your goal and also on the statement of your product and service. So let's say if you have some major updates in I don't know, in your product again or in your company or anything that have changed drastically from the existing content, of course you have to update it immediately. So from my experience, it takes like from 3 to 6 months when you need to update content. Before that, it's rare when something changed that much, and usually it's some minor updates that doesn't require like immediate update. But in 3 months, 6 months, usually you have enough of new content or enough of new updates also, or something changed on the market, or probably you gained some new experience, and usually it's time when you have to update it. And also other situation when you also have to think about content update, it's when you actually do content audit and you see that your content started, or not started, but probably stopped to perform the same good as it was before, or your content position goes down in Google SERP, or let's say it doesn't rank for particular keywords as it ranked before. So it's actually a sign to think about content update as well, or at least to check what might be wrong with this piece of content, why it started to, why it stopped to perform.
All right. Okay. Mayank, this is your question. How important is it to target the audience first and then create the content versus creating a content and then publishing it to the masses, to reach the masses? Yeah, so that's basically the question. How important is it to target the audience first and then create content versus creating the content and then publishing it to reach the masses?
Yeah, thank you very
And he
much.
meant, so he has a follow-up. He says, I meant establish the audience first.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I got you. Okay. So I would say that you have to create content to establish the audience. So it will go in parallel. You can't wait till you would have like millions of people who are like following you without creating some important, like engaging, valuable content for them. And in the same time, you can just like create and publish 10,000 pieces of content like every week and expect that you will gain like, I don't know, 10 million people in this 1 week. So actually it's important to do in parallel. You shouldn't wait till the moment when you would have a lot of people at your site, but in the same time it's not, let's say it's not right to create content before you have some audience to distribute it. If we're talking about database for newsletter, yeah, sure, you have to wait till you would have some, at least, let's say, maybe 500 or 1,000 people to send newsletter. But before that, you can slowly create your audience, establish your audience by publishing your pieces of your content on the blog, and distribute this article, your blog article, through different channels, through probably influencers, to exchange your content with your partners, your blog partners. So step by step, you will have a good bunch of content for people who are going to come for you, and at the same time you're going to attract people by those steps. I hope I explained it clear.
All right. Chetan has a question. He says, how does content fit into the overall business plan to help achieve goals?
Yeah. So yeah, sure, content fits into this into the business goals because let's say business has a plan to increase like retention, or plan to see the raise in sales, or let's say increase brand awareness. So content helps at those goals as well. Let's say at the awareness stage, when we create content, educational content, we help business to increase brand awareness. When we talk about increase in sales or increase in revenue, of course there is a content that can help business to reach those goals, such as content in the decision stage, and also content from the next stage after the decision stage. That content that we create for our customers. And this content helps them to develop loyalty and stay longer with your tool, and let's say become a fan of your tool, and maybe further brand advocate. So it depends on the business goal, but generally content helps to generate leads and to then convert those leads to your customers, and then keep those customers with you. So if you have any business goals, any such business goals, content will definitely will be a good strategy to reach it.
Okay. And he has another question. He says, how can I increase the ROI of my content?
Okay, this is a good question also. It also depends, of course, on on your goal as well. So if you want to increase ROI of your content, you have to firstly see, of course, how it performs now, at what, like how much traffic or how many leads it generates right now, and then also see what distribution channels are there. Probably you have to change it and check how, not check, but change it and try different platforms or different resources for this. And other thing, you also can try to probably restructure your content and probably include there more call to actions, or some generating, like lead generating forms. So you have to make sure that your content have those triggers. Probably it's not visible, or probably it's not that, it's not in the right place or in the right stage of content. Let's say if you have a long read and your call to action at the very end of those long read, probably not each and every person will reach it and then will convert to the next stage. Probably you have to place your call to action like in the middle of your long read, or let's say provide a link somewhere in the beginning of, not in the beginning, but maybe in the middle of your long read. So it will ensure that your content will that your person will see that call to action and won't miss it. So these different types, so you generally have to test different steps, different types, and probably combine some of them, and then you probably will see some effect in this.
Moving to Karen's question, it says, is this for business to business marketing or just consumer?
So the question is this presentation for B2B like
marketing or just B2C? Yeah, probably it could just be that.
Yeah. So generally, I'm generally made an accent on B2B marketing, but some of those points and some of those aspects might also work for B2C. It's a bit different, but still, even your B2C buyer persona has the same stages, but probably you have to change a bit your main messaging, or think about content types at the decision-making stage. Some content might be like at that stage, B2C customers, B2C prospects, they don't need some huge data sheets, or probably some, let's say some free trials. Sometimes probably they need promo codes or some discounts at the stage to make the decision about their purchase. So just think closer to the decision stage of buyer's journey if you're talking about B2C marketing, content marketing.
Okay. I'm just going to speed it up a bit, Olga, because we're running out of time, and there's still quite a few questions. So Nicola's question is, do you use a content calendar to plan the content, and if so, do you recommend a format?
Yes, sure. I use content calendar. So generally I use our content marketing calendar that we have in SEMrush. We launched it recently, and there, how do I use it? We work by campaigns. So when we organize some new campaign, marketing campaign, I create like, let's say, campaign item in this calendar, and then all activities I mark under this campaign. So everybody who is also using this calendar, they are also knowing at which stage I am at the campaign, what is the stage of the content that I'm creating for this campaign, who is responsible for content creation, and all the information in general. Before that, I was using just some simple Excel data sheets, let's say, and in Excel I was planning, it was just a table actually in Excel, where I was planning what are the dates of particular activities or particular content posts, who is responsible for this content post. I was also placing links to the draft of this content, and also some main message, or like main keywords that I or external writer should use when creating this piece of content.
All right. I'm going to take up last three questions now. Marcella, Chetan, and Bob. There goes your questions. So going with Marcella's first. This is in regards to blogs. If you are aware that you have several very diverse audience segments, would you recommend publishing different content for each segment, or would you say it is better to better to try to cater for both in a single post?
No, I would recommend to differentiate it. If you have a lot of segments, again, you should decide which one you're concentrating on. It shouldn't be just one segment. It might be like 3 to 5, or like better like 3. But don't mix up all of this, don't mix up those audiences, those segments in one content piece. Better create 2 with a clear message. So, and there is actually a golden rule: one piece of content, one clear message, and one clear call to action. So try to follow this rule.
Right. Chetan, this is your question. What messaging should be embedded in the content in order to get the reader to take the desired actions as it relates the main phrase of the buyer's journey and smaller calls to action steps too?
Okay. So what we usually do, we usually, let's say, write some paragraph about the problem, or about with the explanation how to solve this problem. We explain what other steps should be done to solve some particular problem or reach some particular goal or opportunity. And then at the end of this paragraph, we usually place some links. Let's say if you feel that it's right, or if you feel that it's a good solution for you, or it's a good decision for you, go here and see what can be done. And usually these links are links to content of the different stage. So let's say if I'm writing some educational content for awareness stage, I will place a link to consideration stage content with highlights of product benefits. So if it's consideration stage content, I will place something, some link to case study, or link to the landing page with free trial or demo suggestions. So just experiment with this call to actions at different parts of the content.
Taking up Bob's question as the last 2 questions for the day. So Bob says, what impacts more, backlinks or social shares?
Definitely backlinks. So if you're talking about SEO factors, social shares are good for brand awareness, but it's not proof that Google really counts it as a ranking factor for your content, but it counts backlinks. So if you if you can choose what to work on social shares or on backlinks, better work on backlinks and concentrate on gaining some really good, trustworthy and relevant backlinks from relevant websites. It would really help.
Okay. And the last and final question for the day, again from Bob. So he says, do you use infographics, and do infographics help with SEO?
Yes, we do use infographics, and yes, it helps with SEO. But usually we don't just publish infographics and that's it. Usually we still create some piece of content before or after these infographics, just to explain some points, and also we use targeted keywords and optimize this text, this couple of paragraphs for SEO optimization.
All right. So yes, we have come to the end of the presentation, and so yes, those who were asking if you're going to get the recording and the presentation, yes, you will get both. So don't worry about that. Any closing thoughts, Olga, before we end the session?
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, content marketing is it looks like a complicated thing from one point of view. From other point of view, it looks like a very easy thing because everybody knows how to write. But to make it easier, there are some points from my side. You shouldn't be afraid to experiment, because you don't really always know what content or what call to action or what channel is the best fit for your particular goal. So experiment with your content. and also know your audience. That's very important to create really valuable and engaging content. And try to review and research your audience and keep track with your audience at least once in a quarter. And you will know what content they need to solve their problems. And good luck.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Olga, and thank you so much to the audience for joining the session, of course, and staying this long. We are a bit well over time, actually. So thank you all, and Olga, thanks a lot to you for a great presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.